Sometime around 1983, you walked into your neighbor's living room and stopped. Every wall was covered in mirror tiles, floor to ceiling, corner to corner, the whole room reflecting itself into infinity. And nobody said a word, because half the houses on your street looked exactly the same. The 1980s were a decade of bold choices when it came to home decorating. Choices that felt cutting edge at the time and look absolutely baffling today. Some of these trends lasted a season, others hung on for years, quietly embarrassing everyone who committed to them. So hit subscribe because here are 25 embarrassing 1980s home trends that everyone wants to forget. Number 25. Mirrored wall tiles in the living room. Before 1980, mirrors belonged in the bathroom and maybe the hallway. Then somebody decided that gluing 12-inch mirrored squares to an entire wall made a room feel bigger. Technically it did. It also made you watch yourself eating dinner from 6 different angles. The tiles never lined up perfectly, so the reflection always came back warped and segmented, like looking at yourself through a funhouse window you paid good money to install. By the mid-1980s, half the split-level homes in the suburbs had at least one mirrored accent wall. The adhesive they used was industrial strength, the kind meant for permanent installation. Removing them meant peeling off chunks of drywall along with each tile, leaving a cratered surface underneath that needed skim coating before you could even think about painting. That is why plenty of them are still there today, hiding behind a bookcase or a strategically placed piece of furniture, quietly reflecting a room that wishes they were gone. Number 24. Popcorn ceilings, also called cottage cheese ceilings, stipple ceilings, or just that stuff your dad sprayed up there one weekend. The textured finish was originally designed to dampen sound and hide imperfections in the drywall. What it actually did was collect dust, turn yellow from cigarette smoke, and make every room in the house feel like the inside of a styrofoam cooler. If you threw a ball up there as a kid, it left a smooth, round dent in the texture that stayed forever. Scraping it off is a project that nobody finishes in one weekend, no matter what they tell themselves. The texture crumbles into a chalky grit that gets in your hair, your clothes, and your lungs. In homes built before 1980, there is a decent chance the material contains asbestos, which means removing it requires professional abatement instead of a putty knife and a dust mask. Millions of American homes still have popcorn ceilings. Nobody brags about them. Number 23. Brass fixtures on absolutely everything. Door handles, towel racks, light fixtures, cabinet pulls, curtain rods, even the toilet paper holder. If it could be made of brass, the 1980s made it brass. The problem was that most of it was never solid brass. It was a thin lacquer coating sprayed over cheap base metal, and after a few years, the lacquer started flaking off in tiny golden chips. Underneath, the metal turned green and splotchy, like a penny left out in the rain for a year. You could spend a whole Saturday afternoon polishing every brass fixture in a single bathroom, and by the following Tuesday, it looked tarnished again. Entire houses were fitted out in matching brass: the chandelier, the door knocker, the faucet handles, the fireplace screen. Replacing all of it at once was expensive enough that most people just lived with it until brushed nickel took over in the mid-1990s and brass became the thing you apologized for when showing someone the house. Number 22. The mauve and dusty rose color scheme. For most of the 1980s, mauve was treated like a neutral. It showed up on walls, on sofas, on bedspreads, on bath towels, on the exterior trim of split-level homes, and on the cover of every decorating magazine sold at the supermarket checkout. Pair it with seafoam green or country blue, and you had the unofficial palette of middle-class America from about 1984 to 1991. The color itself was not offensive on its own. The problem was the sheer saturation of it. Walk into a mauve living room with a mauve carpet, mauve curtains, and mauve throw pillows, and the whole experience felt like standing inside a bottle of Pepto-Bismol. When the 1990s brought hunter green and burgundy, mauve disappeared so fast it practically left a tan line on the walls behind it. Number 21. Country goose kitchen decor. Somewhere around 1985, the American kitchen was taken over by geese. Wooden geese wearing calico bonnets and gingham bows. Goose-shaped cookie jars. Goose wallpaper borders. Goose switch plate covers. Goose pot holders. Goose salt and pepper shakers. Goose paper towel holders. There were entire product lines at Kmart and JCPenney dedicated to country goose accessories. The goose always wore a blue or red ribbon tied in a bow around its neck, and it always had the same blank, slightly judgmental expression, like it disapproved of your cooking. Nobody questioned the trend while it was happening. Your mother had one on the counter, her sister had 3 on the wall, and the lady from church had an entire shelf of them arranged by size. It faded quietly by the early 1990s, replaced by roosters and sunflowers, which everyone somehow considered an improvement. Number 20. Wallpaper borders running along the top of every room. Not full wallpaper, just the border. A 6-inch strip of printed paper glued around the perimeter of the room where the wall met the ceiling. Fruit baskets in the kitchen, teddy bears in the nursery, ivy vines in the guest bathroom, southwestern geometric patterns in the den. The border was supposed to add a finishing touch, like crown molding for people who did not want to deal with crown molding. Applying it was the easy part. You dipped the pre-pasted strip in water, slid it along the top of the wall, and smoothed it out with a plastic squeegee. Removing it was where the real adventure started. You would pull at one corner and a long strip of drywall paper would come with it, leaving an ugly scar across the entire wall that needed 3 coats of spackle and 2 coats of primer before it looked like anything other than a crime scene. Number 19. The built-in wet bar. In the 1980s, having a wet bar in the living room or the basement was the ultimate sign that you had arrived. It usually sat in the corner of a finished basement or a formal entertaining space, wrapped in dark wood paneling with a laminate countertop, a small stainless steel sink barely big enough to rinse a glass, a row of glass shelves lit from behind with a strip of fluorescent light, and a set of matching crystal tumblers that nobody in the family was actually allowed to use. The fancier versions had a brass rail along the front edge and a padded vinyl bumper where you could lean while pretending you were at a cocktail lounge in downtown Chicago instead of a finished basement in Schaumburg, Illinois. Most of them held exactly 1 bottle of Canadian Club that was 3/4 full and had been sitting there since 1982, a bottle of Kahlua with a sticky cap, a bottle of creme de menthe that nobody remembered buying, and a neat stack of cocktail napkins with somebody's initials monogrammed in gold foil. The sink almost never drained properly because the plumbing had been run as an afterthought, and after a few years, the drain trap started producing a smell that no amount of baking soda could fix. By the mid-1990s, the wet bar had quietly become the junk collection point of the house, buried under mail, old magazines, VHS tapes waiting to be returned, and a phone book that nobody could bring themselves to throw away. Today, real estate agents walk past them quickly, describing them to prospective buyers as bonus counter space or a great spot for a coffee station, which is real estate language for we do not know what to do with this either. Number 18. Vertical blinds on every sliding glass door. If your house had a sliding glass door to the patio or the backyard, it had vertical blinds. White or off-white plastic slats hanging from a metal track along the top, swaying gently every time the air conditioning kicked on, clicking against each other like a wind chime made of rulers. Turning the rod to angle them open took a specific wrist motion that every American child mastered by age 7. Pulling the cord to stack them all to one side was a gamble, because at least 2 slats would get stuck and refuse to move. The real embarrassment was how fast they fell apart. One slat would crack from the sun, another would come unhooked from its carrier clip and hang crooked. Within 2 years, you had a set of blinds with 3 missing teeth swinging in the breeze like a broken sail. Number 17. Floral chintz upholstery on every piece of furniture. The English country look hit American suburbs hard in the mid-1980s, and suddenly every sofa, love seat, armchair, and accent pillow was wrapped in a busy print of oversized cabbage roses, trailing vines, and hydrangea clusters on a cream or white background. The fabric was glazed with a stiff, shiny coating that made it feel like sitting on a coated tablecloth. It showed every stain, every crumb, every strand of pet hair with perfect clarity. Your mother covered it in plastic slipcovers anyway because the chintz was expensive and was meant for looking at, not for actual sitting. Sitting on plastic-covered chintz in the middle of July with the backs of your legs sticking to the surface produced a peeling sound that could be heard from the next room. By 1993, most of it had ended up in the garage sale pile, replaced by something solid in hunter green or burgundy. Number 16. Glass block walls and windows. Glass blocks were a staple of Art Deco architecture back in the 1930s. Then the 1980s rediscovered them, and suddenly they were showing up in bathroom walls, shower surrounds, entryway side lights, room dividers, and even kitchen backsplashes. They let light through without letting anyone see clearly, which was the entire selling point. The problem was that they made every room look like the lobby of a municipal swimming pool. They were incredibly heavy, stacking up to hundreds of pounds per wall section. Removing them meant demolishing the wall they were set into, because each block was mortared in place like a brick. After a few years of bathroom moisture, the mortar lines turned green with mildew that no scrub brush could fully remove. If your house still has glass blocks, you already know exactly what you are dealing with. Number 15. Track lighting pointed in every direction. Track lighting arrived in American homes in the 1980s as the modern alternative to the standard ceiling fixture. A long metal rail mounted to the ceiling with 3, 4, or 5 adjustable spotlight heads that you could aim in any direction you wanted. In theory, it created dramatic, gallery-style illumination that could highlight artwork, reading areas, or architectural features. In practice, somebody in the family always managed to aim one spotlight directly into the eyes of whoever sat in the recliner, and nobody could figure out how to adjust it without climbing on a chair and burning their fingers on the bulb housing. The halogen bulbs ran hot enough to scorch anything within a few inches, and replacing a burned-out bulb required a twist-and-pull motion that somehow worked differently on every single fixture model ever sold. Number 14. Carpet in the kitchen. Not an area rug, not a washable runner. Full wall-to-wall carpet glued directly to the kitchen floor, right up against the base of the stove, the dishwasher, and the refrigerator. In the late 1970s and into the 1980s, this was considered both cozy and practical. You could stand at the counter barefoot on a cold morning without flinching on icy linoleum, and builders marketed it as a softer, quieter alternative to hard flooring. The reality was something different entirely. Every spill soaked straight through. Dropped spaghetti sauce, splattered bacon grease, the juice from a thawing package of chicken, all of it went into the carpet fibers and stayed there permanently. You could shampoo that floor once a month and it still carried a faint smell of everything that had been cooked in that kitchen since the day the carpet was installed. The area directly in front of the sink developed a permanent dark stain from constant water splashing, and no amount of scrubbing with a rented carpet cleaner ever made it lighter. Around the stove, the fibers hardened into a crunchy, discolored patch from years of airborne grease mist settling into the weave. The truly committed homeowners chose a dark brown or burnt orange pattern specifically designed to camouflage the stains, which only made the kitchen feel darker and more closed in. Guests would stand at the edge of the carpet and look down at it with an expression that said everything without saying a word. When someone finally worked up the nerve to rip it out, the carpet pad underneath had bonded to the subfloor in a sticky, crumbling layer that took hours of scraping with a floor scraper and a bottle of adhesive remover to get clean. The smell that rose up when the pad peeled loose was a concentrated archive of every meal that kitchen had ever produced, strong enough to clear the entire house in under a minute. Number 13. The smoked glass and brass coffee table. Every living room in the 1980s seemed to have one. A thick rectangle of dark-tinted glass sitting on a brass or gold-tone metal frame with gently curved legs. It looked elegant for about 1 week until it became the most fingerprint-visible surface in the entire house. Every smudge, every water ring, every scattered crumb showed up on smoked glass like evidence at a crime scene. You could wipe it down with Windex 3 times a day, and it never looked truly clean. The edges of the glass were sharp enough to split a shin wide open, and every parent who owned one has at least one story about a child running into the corner at full speed on a Saturday morning and leaving the room in tears. Number 12. Faux wood grain contact paper on every cabinet door. If the original wood in the kitchen was dated, scratched, or made of bare particle board, the 1980s fix was a roll of adhesive-backed vinyl printed to look like oak, walnut, or maple. You measured the surface, cut the contact paper to size, peeled the backing off, and pressed it on with a credit card to smooth out the air bubbles. In the first hour, it looked surprisingly convincing, especially from across the room. By the second month, the edges started curling up at the corners, bubbles appeared in the center that could not be flattened back down, and the wood grain pattern did not line up where two sheets met, creating an obvious seam that ran right down the middle of the cabinet. Moisture from the sink and the dishwasher loosened the adhesive from underneath, and eventually whole sheets could be peeled off in one long, satisfying pull, revealing the damaged surface beneath that now looked worse than before. Number 11. Pastel bathroom suites in pink, baby blue, or mint green. In the 1980s, a white bathroom was considered plain and unfinished. Builders and homeowners chose coordinated colored porcelain instead, a matching toilet, pedestal sink, and bathtub all in the same shade of powder pink, ice blue, or seafoam green. The fixtures were not cheap. They were heavy, solid porcelain manufactured by companies like American Standard and Kohler in colors that the sales brochures swore would never go out of style. They went out of style. Swapping out a colored toilet is a straightforward weekend project. Replacing a colored bathtub is a different matter entirely because it means ripping out the surrounding tile, adjusting the plumbing, and refinishing the walls. That is why there are still thousands of pink and mint green bathrooms across America right now, embarrassing their owners every morning. Number 10. The indoor hot tub in the master bedroom. For a brief, humid window in the 1980s, some homeowners decided the best place for a hot tub was inside the house. Bedrooms, sunrooms, enclosed porches, even walk-in closets were converted into personal spa retreats with a bubbling, jetted tub right in the middle of the room. The problem was moisture. A tub of 104-degree water running for hours produces an enormous amount of steam, and most residential bedrooms were never built to handle that kind of humidity. Within a year, the wallpaper was peeling, the ceiling above the tub was spotted with dark mold, and the carpet surrounding the base had gone permanently damp and spongy underfoot. The structural damage from constant moisture could weaken floor joists and warp framing. When it came time to sell the house, the hot tub in the bedroom turned out to reduce the property's value rather than raise it. Number 9. The formal living room that nobody was allowed to sit in. This was the room right at the front of the house. The first thing visitors saw when the door opened, and the last place anyone in the family was permitted to actually use. It had a sofa upholstered in something expensive, coordinated throw pillows arranged at precise angles that you were not supposed to move, a coffee table with a crystal candy dish or a silk flower arrangement on it that served no function other than decoration, and floor-length curtains that matched the upholstery so perfectly they must have been ordered from the same catalog page. The carpet was the cleanest in the house because no one walked on it. The air smelled slightly stale because the door was rarely opened. Children learned early and absolutely that the formal living room was not for playing, not for homework, not for watching television, not for eating snacks, not for anything at all. You could walk past it every single day for 10 years and never once sit on that couch. The room existed purely as proof that the family could afford a space they did not use. It was a museum exhibit of their own home. Meanwhile, the real living happened 15 feet away in the den or the family room, on a sagging corduroy sofa with a crocheted afghan thrown over one armrest, a television set that weighed more than the children watching it, and a coffee table covered in ring stains from glasses that nobody bothered to put on a coaster. The formal living room trend died slowly as open floor plans took over in the late 1990s and early 2000s, and the idea of dedicating an entire room in an expensive house to furniture that nobody touched finally struck people as exactly what it had always been: completely absurd. Number 8. Precious moments figurines displayed on every shelf. These small porcelain children with teardrop-shaped eyes and oversized heads were manufactured by UNESCO starting in 1978, and by the mid-1980s, they had colonized every horizontal surface in millions of American homes. China cabinets, fireplace mantles, bathroom windowsills, bedroom dressers, even the top of the television set. Collectors bought one for every birthday, every anniversary, every holiday, every retirement. Some families had dozens of them, arranged by theme and dusted weekly with a soft cloth. The figurines were marketed as future collectibles that would appreciate in value over time, like miniature investments you could display on a shelf. They did not appreciate. Today, most Precious Moments figurines sell for a few dollars each at estate sales, lined up on folding tables next to stacks of Reader's Digest condensed books and VHS tapes of Gone with the Wind. Number 7. Sponge-painted walls. Somewhere around 1987, television decorating shows convinced half of America that professional-looking faux finishes could be achieved at home with nothing more than a kitchen sponge and 2 cans of latex paint. The technique sounded simple. You rolled on the base coat in a solid color, waited for it to dry, dipped a natural sea sponge into a contrasting shade, and dabbed it across the wall in random overlapping patterns. The finished result was supposed to resemble aged Tuscan plaster or weathered Mediterranean stucco. It usually looked like a wall that had developed a rash. The technique required a consistent, feather-light touch that almost nobody had for more than 10 minutes. Too much pressure, and the sponge left solid, shapeless blobs. Too little, and the second color barely showed up at all. Most sponge-painted rooms ended up looking completely different on each wall because the painter ran out of patience by the third side, and the dabbing pattern got increasingly chaotic. Number 6. Dropped ceilings with fluorescent panel lighting in the kitchen. The suspended ceiling, originally designed for commercial office buildings, migrated into residential kitchens and finished basements all through the 1980s. A metal grid framework hung on wires a few inches below the actual ceiling, holding lightweight acoustic tiles and long rectangular fluorescent light panels that hummed faintly whenever they were switched on. The light was bright, flat, and deeply unflattering, the kind that made everyone sitting at the kitchen table look slightly unwell. The acoustic tiles yellowed steadily over time, absorbing cooking grease and cigarette smoke until they went from white to a dull ivory to a shade that could only be described as nicotine beige. When one tile cracked or developed a water stain, replacing it with an exact match from the hardware store was never as simple as it should have been because the manufacturer had discontinued that particular style 3 years earlier. The gap between the dropped ceiling and the real ceiling above became a hidden graveyard for dead insects and years of accumulated dust. Number 5. Matching everything in the same fabric pattern. In the 1980s, coordination was not a suggestion. It was a decorating philosophy bordering on religion. The sofa, the love seat, the armchair, the throw pillows, the curtains, the valance above the curtains, and sometimes even the wallpaper behind it all came in the exact same print. Stripes, florals, southwestern diamonds, English country plaids. It did not matter what the pattern was. What mattered was that everything in the room matched perfectly and completely, without a single exception. The overall effect was visually overwhelming, like stepping into a room that had been gift-wrapped from the inside out. Furniture stores sold complete room packages, built around a single fabric collection, and decorating magazines praised the look as polished, intentional, and sophisticated. Looking at photographs of those rooms now is like staring at a visual puzzle that your eyes cannot quite resolve. Number 4. Honey oak cabinets and trim in every room. Honey oak was the signature wood of the 1980s. Golden, prominently grained, and sealed with a thick coat of glossy polyurethane, it appeared in kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, stair railings, door frames, window casings, baseboards, and entertainment centers. Builders loved it because it was affordable, widely available, and durable enough to survive decades of daily use. Homeowners loved it because it looked warm and natural compared to the dark walnut and avocado tones of the 1970s. The problem was total saturation. When every visible surface in the house was finished in the same shade of warm amber, the whole place started to feel like the inside of a wooden sauna. Painting over honey oak became one of the most popular home renovation projects of the 2000s and 2010s, spawning an entire cottage industry of tutorials, primers designed specifically for glossy wood, and YouTube channels dedicated to nothing but the art of covering it up. Number 3. The ceiling fan with wicker or rattan blades. Ceiling fans in the 1980s were not just functional, they were decorative statements. The blades were wrapped in woven wicker or rattan cane, sometimes shaped like tropical palm fronds, sometimes like oversized tennis rackets with rounded edges. They hung from thick brass chains in the center of the room, often paired with a light kit that held 3 or 4 frosted glass globes underneath. On the highest speed setting, the whole assembly wobbled slightly on every rotation, producing a rhythmic clicking sound that became the background noise of every summer evening in every house that had one. The wicker weave collected dust deep inside the fibers, and cleaning it properly meant standing on a chair with a damp cloth, working carefully between each strand. If one blade warped from years of humidity, the entire fan developed a wobble that no amount of balancing weights taped to the top of the blades could fix for long. Number 2. The sunken living room. The sunken living room was 1 or 2 steps lower than the rest of the main floor, separated from the adjacent rooms by a railing, a short knee wall, or just the bare step itself. It was a staple of home design from the late 1970s through the 1980s, meant to create a sense of separation and importance for the main entertaining space. What it actually created was a permanent tripping hazard. Guests carrying plates and drinks stumbled on the step down. Toddlers tumbled over the edge. Elderly relatives approached it like the rim of a swimming pool, cautious and suspicious. Moving furniture in and out meant navigating the step at awkward angles while trying not to scuff the wall on either side. Leveling them out became such a common renovation project that contractors in the 1990s and 2000s built entire side businesses around filling in sunken living rooms with new subflooring and matching the hardwood or carpet to the rest of the house. Number 1. The floor-to-ceiling stone or brick fireplace wall. This was the showpiece, the centerpiece. The thing the real estate agent pointed at first when she walked you through the house in 1984? An entire wall, sometimes 12 feet high in a vaulted great room, covered floor to ceiling in rough-cut stone, exposed brick, or stacked fieldstone, with a brass-trimmed fireplace insert in the middle and a thick wooden mantel holding a clock, 2 candlesticks, and a family portrait. It dominated the room. It dominated the entire house. The stone was real and heavy, mortared directly to the wall studs, which made removing it a demolition project. Chiseling off hundreds of pounds of stonework, patching the wall behind it, and hauling away the rubble was a job that took days. Painting over it only made things worse because the paint settled into every crevice and groove, turning what had been rugged natural texture into something that looked like a cave wall at a theme park. If your parents built one of these in the 1980s, there is a very good chance it is still standing right now, holding up that same clock. The 1980s gave us a lot to remember. These 25 home trends are the ones most of us would rather forget. If anything on this list took you straight back to your childhood living room or your grandmother's kitchen, or that one perfect room in the house that nobody was ever allowed to sit in, drop a comment and tell us which one your family had. If you know someone who still has a mirrored wall, a sunken living room, or a ceiling fan with wicker blades, share this video with them. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will keep digging through the things America tried its best to leave behind.